Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the second virtual roundtable hosted by the Shopping Centers Association of India. Thank you, Arjun, Dilip, Mr. Neotia, Mr. Razak, for joining us today. And thank you, Anuj, for moderating today's discussion. You all know Anuj. He's been a great friend, supporter, believer of India's modern retail and shopping centers future for the last 20 years now. Thank you, Anuj, for supporting us and doing this again for us. Thank you very much. Just to let you know, almost 1,300 people have registered for this, and we are live on YouTube right now. Big welcome to all our viewers today. Before I hand over the mic to Anuj, a few words about the retail scenario today, the discussions, what we will do today, and about SCAI, the Shopping Centers Association of India. Well, it's unfortunate that the shopping centers have still not been included among the reopening sectors of India. I think that is because there may be a serious lack of understanding on their importance. Retail is the forefront of the economy. It is the second largest contributor to GDP. Shopping centers are essentials for the Indian economy. The government must be told this very clearly. Malls are controlled environments and are way more secure than local markets. We can enforce safety norms much better than anybody else. For India's economic health, shopping centers must be allowed to open at least in green zones, we believe. Building confidence among the key stakeholders, government, consumers, employees, tenants, and banks will be the main direction of our discussion today, Anuj. Before I hand over to Anuj, let me also take a minute to explain the role of SCAI. SCAI was formed 12 years back as a non-profit organization with the mission to disseminate knowledge, research, insights on the retail real estate industry, and also for advocacy on its behalf. Over the years, we represented the shopping center industry on multiple policy issues. But for the past 6 weeks, we've been a non-stop drive to get policymakers to grant urgent relief to the industry. We've been on a daily virtual meeting with stakeholders, making representations to RBI to extend loan moratorium to 12 months, pushing guidelines on post-opening SOPs to the PM's office, Niti Aayog, Home Ministry, you say it. We've approached almost every government department which we could. That is the external push. Internally, we are pushing for unification and solidarity within the retail industry, the modern retail industry. Retail and shopping centers are the co-creators of vibrant, essential ecosystem of modern retail. Now, they have to find a way to become one powerful voice and get the entire modern retail Indian consumption lifestyle ecosystem in India through this. We got to get through this together. We need to add power and substance to SCAI to speak as the voice of India's modern retail and shopping center industry. I urge every organization in the shopping center development business. We are already about 200 malls who are members of the SCAI. I wish we could have almost everybody who's building or runs a shopping center in India so that we can make SCAI much more powerful than it is today. So Anuj, we are in a very critical phase with multiple immediate goals. As you all know, most important, we have to get to restart India's retail economy. SCAI is already developing stringent SOPs. We have to be heard loudly on this because this will be a major factor in reopening discussions and decisions. How do we convince policymakers that shopping centers need to restart opening to kickstart retail's recovery? How do we convince them our shopping centers are in a better position to create 100% safe, compliant environments? Second, the serious issue on LRDs. We've approached RBI repeatedly, again and again, Finance Ministry, there's zero response. How do we get heard louder? How do we influence an urgent restructuring of our loan moratoriums, LRDs? Next, how do we manage our partner relations, our tenants' concerns? I think that's also one of the big concerns. And we've been obviously somehow handling that and really working together with retailers. But I think we need to address that at some stage. What will be the new norm? Would this period define a new kind of mix for the shopping centers? And in the big picture, how do we create finally what Mr. Neotia was saying before the session, a confidence building measure with the consumer through all the stakeholders? The consumer needs to have finally the money and he needs to shop. We've got several icons of India's shopping center development industry today, some of the finest in India, I must say. Let's find out how they see things. Let's find out. Anuj, over to you. Thank you very much, everybody, for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Amitabh. Thanks for a fantastic job that SCAI is doing, and thanks for bringing in these four very, very well-respected, stalwarts, pillars of modern retail real estate. I have learned a lot. Certainly when I look to the man with the beard who has changed his appearance. My first assignment was with him when he was doing the City Center 1 mall in Salt Lake. So, it's a delight, Amitabh, for, meeting up with these four gentlemen. We have just over an hour to spend with these four gentlemen. And between you and I, we have a ton of questions that we need to get through. Just a quick introduction. I'm not going to get into formal introduction. Most of the people would know Mr. Irfan Razak, the owner of Prestige, Mr. Harshvardhan Nuetia, the man who's extremely well respected in the entire East India and in industries outside real estate. Is well known for a brand called as Bengal Ambuja or Ambuja in there. Arjun Sharma, whom I've known for a very long time, very, very successful, amongst the most successful malls in India. He owns and operates called as Select City in Saket, Delhi. And Dilip, my friend, who is in charge for Blackstone Retail Real Estate, one of the largest mall owners in India. So thank you, gentlemen. Irfan sir, I'm going to start with you. Because you're a lucky man, you are in a free place. Bangalore opened up today. Fantastic. So two questions, Mr. Irfan. One is, how's the feeling? I mean, we really want to be in your shoes and really understand what that small joy of going back to the office or big joy of going back to the office is. One. And second is, sir, what do we really need to be prepared for? I mean, we heard Amitabh talking about SOP of the mall, but what else that we really need to be prepared for as we step into a little bit more freer market?
Thanks, Anuj. Thanks you for making me the opening batsman. Bangalore has opened up and not opened up. It's if you go into the streets of Bangalore, it's still very, very, very quiet. It's a very slow, measured start. And even for private offices, they've advised that we do only 1/3 the staffing. So we've actually deferred, sort of broken up people working from home, people working from sites. Of course, the good news is, which is very gratifying to us, is the construction activity has started.
Yes.
And not only Bangalore, it has started in Hyderabad, it started in Kochi, it started in Chennai. So across the board, I think in southern India, at least we are happy that whether with a depleted labor force or whatever that is, we are at least, it's like you've stopped your factory and now it's kick-started and work starts. At least, what happens is half-done projects or 3/4 done projects where you have an interest meter running on you, and and the only way make it viable is you need to finish them quickly. You need to complete them quickly and bring them to fruition. So that's the pressure that is there on the people who are actually doing a lot of big work, and doing scale, and that's the pressure that we face. And again, the next thing is, how are the collections going to come in? And that's, again, basically it's for the housing. As now, let's stick to malls. Now, malls, actually, I think 2004 was the first mall in Bangalore, and probably one of the most organized malls, Forum Koramangala, that we launched in 2004. And from then on, it's been a fabulous journey. It's been a fascinating journey. Many people have joined the bandwagon. Now, Arjun in Delhi has done a fabulous job. You've got Harsh in the East. You've got Dalip with Nexus Malls. And I've heard your previous panels, and they were, like Atul and Abhishek and Rahul and Jay of Bangalore itself. All of them have done an amazing job. The entire narrative on shopping, on retail. But one thing we must say, and I think even your previous panel emphasized, that malls is just not a place for shopping. What we have created is a social infrastructure. basically a place for the common man. It's just not for the elite. My brief in 2002 to my team was, I said, don't make it a place where people will get sort of put off and they'll get frightened to step into your center, because I had nightmares when I was building that mall. I know because I did it against all odds, because I just wanted to live an idea, and I lived it, and I think we succeeded it. And today we have 8 operating malls and 8 under construction, planning, all of it. So that's the thing. Actually 9 operating, honestly, if I take UB City. So that's luxury. But then what I did was, we said, let it be for the common man, where the common man comes in, spends their time, middle class, lower middle class, they spend time there, and they meet their friends. And then, of course, what happens is then the chemistry, whether you go enjoy yourself a meal, see a cinema, or do shopping. But it was a combination of all. And this debate for the last several years has been going on for more than a decade. Brick and mortar versus online. And, there was a lot of naysayers that said, listen, brick and mortar will be the thing of the past. It'll be now, online will be there. But you see, that chemistry, like now all of us were locked up in homes. Now, Anuj, it's so much joy, said, how does it feel for you to get to your office? So you see, I was a blessed guy. Whether I was sitting at home, I have my own home office. So I really didn't find anything. And every day we had VCs, webinars, and everything else. So the question is, if you're asking me as a person, I don't see any difference between yesterday and today, because it's only a different change of a room, that's all. But then for the common man, see, now this is what we've been doing for malls. We have created this social infrastructure. We've created this for the people. And actually the government of India and the state government should be happy that we are bringing in people. What happens is, by the social infrastructure is, we are eliminating anti-social activity. We are eliminating all sorts of the wrongs can happen in a society. Now the society is, sort of trained and pushed towards more positive things than doing negative things. See, if you get bored, if you get into high streets, I'm not saying high streets are bad. Everything coexists by itself. Each one has its role in its own way. So I'm not sort of saying, oh, malls is the only thing and it's not online or it's not high street. It's the whole chemistry that works. And malls, what they have done is they've provided a safe environment, a clean environment, an environment where not only even simple things, like if you go into a high street store and you suddenly need to use the washroom, you may not find a clean washroom. Yeah. But in our malls, we make sure that the environment is clean, your washrooms are clean, your public facilities are clean. And now this pre-COVID and post-COVID era, now what's going to happen? Actually, all our mall owners, everybody across the board, I can speak about all of them. What are they doing? They are making measures to see that people walk in with masks. People, when they're getting ready now, COVID ready, when the malls will open. After all, if it's not today, it's 15 days later. It's not that it's going to be something that is for permanent position. Yes, slowly the footfall will increase. Slowly things will start coming in. Okay, we may not be able to have the events that we normally used to have, but we are definitely working towards giving more hygienic conditions, giving that much more safety, checking the crowds, inflow of crowds into the mall itself, into the center itself, inflow of crowds into each store in case a particular store is crowded. Like today, they opened the liquor shops.
Yes, that's
across.
Right.
Believe you me, if you see the crowds and the queues, it's amazing. Now, if I had a liquor shop and the mall was open, it would have been that much more controlled. It would have been that much more, sort of in a very organized manner. Unfortunately, the high street stores of liquor have opened, but the liquor store in the mall hasn't opened. And of course, now going things like if you have restaurants, food courts. Now, for some time, till the COVID problem itself is solved, it's not that this is going to be the end all of it. It's a phase. We are in a phase. Maybe the phase will be lasting 3 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe a year, till the vaccine comes in, till the cure comes in for COVID. We'll have to be a little tentative. We'll have to take the necessary precautions, because I believe the safety the health of all our mall visitors. In fact, why all our mall visitors of the entire population is very, very important. Health and safety and their life is that much very, very important.
Yeah.
And we are not trying to throw caution to the wind and say, listen, why have you locked us up and why have you allowed others to open up? That's not the narrative. The narrative is saying life has to go on. People have to live. People have to have some sort of a, outlet, and they have to go somewhere. And otherwise, like today when the liquor shops open, people have bought the liquor. They may just, go on a binge. No,
yeah.
You never know, and that will lead to more problems. Have it more smooth, let it be more organized, open the malls, let the coffee shop in the mall open. Instead of having 50 seats in that coffee shop, we reduce it to 25 seats. In the food court, if you have a 500-seater food court, you do every alternate table and block everything else and keep the distancing. And let people come and just have that enjoyment, have that movement, and with all safety, with every hygienic condition that you can do. Because finally, we have to see that public health and public safety is there. Our visitors are safe, and we don't want to have a bad name. Somebody walks into my center and then say there was a COVID positive visitor found in that mall. I'll be shut for 6 months. That's not what we want. I'd rather start properly. I'd rather start in a very measured manner. I'd rather start with all the necessary precautions and make sure that anybody and everybody who enters our centers, whichever center, whichever of the owners, because we are all together in this, we are not separate. We all have to be in it together. I think we are committed as a team to provide that safe shopping environment, that safe visiting environment where people can come and still vent themselves out and enjoy themselves and relax and just sip that just a cup of coffee if they want, not even shopping. That's the whole idea of the shopping centers. It's to provide you with that entire experience, and that's what we are working towards, and that's what I think the even the powers that we should be realized. But then I must say, whatever the central government has done, the Modi government has done, is amazing. They've managed to contain the infections. They've managed to do this lockdown very, very successfully. But now I think it's time for us. It's 6 weeks, and it's time for us to slowly limp back to some sort of a normalcy. But then this will be the new normal till the vaccine is found. And I don't think there's any other solution but for us to be more and more careful, bring that awareness amongst our visitors, bring the awareness among the population that it's not all over. It's not all over till that vaccine and the cure is found. So till then, we have to keep plodding along and just hope that things work out.
I think beautiful, really very, very well said, very exhaustive, opening comments, Mr. Razak. And it is true what you're saying is that it is not about mall versus the high street. It is about social, it is about safety, it's about security, it's about getting back to normalcy. And that is what it is required. Harsh, if I can come to you and take a cue from what Mr. Razak said is coming back to normalcy. My question to you is, Harsh, and you are very good in understanding the consumer. You have the pulse of the consumer. My question is that even if we were to open up the malls, you think that we will be able to attract back the consumer, or it will require a lot more confidence that we need to boost, whether it's retailers and developers together, or us alone, to be able to get the confidence of that purchaser back to come into the mall?
So thank you, Anuj. Thank you, Amitabh. Thank you, panelists. Great to be here on this platform. So the way I look at it, and I agree with every word that Mr. Razak said, but I feel that the challenge of opening the mall is more than just getting it opened. And the reason is that there are certain activities which are called contact activities now. Food is a contact activity, shopping is a contact activity. People generally are apprehensive in any contact activity because that's where you can touch surfaces or items that could potentially be carrying the virus. The second issue is that there is a a desirability. Today, shopping, a very large part of it is non-essential, except for food and medicines. I suppose for most people who go to shopping malls can live without any shopping at least for 3, 4, 6 months, because you really don't need anything as an essential. So you need to have two criteria. One is you need to feel safe to do that, and second, you need money in your pocket, and third, you need to have that confidence that your business is fine and you will have income, or your job is fine and you're safe, or you're not likely to have severe cuts in pay. Now, these are things which are most uncertain in these situations, because we know what a huge blow this has provided, this lockdown and the consequences of that have been to the economy in general and to everyone's income position in also. So there are two aspects here very clearly. One is fear and one is money in your hands. And the third is the psychological aspect of wanting to spend. I think, unfortunately, we are loaded against all these three events. So let us say theoretically, if a mall opens, and I'm totally with Mr. Razak to say that the mall should open, because it is certainly equally safe, if not safer, than any other options that they've opened up. But the next challenge still confronts us. Now, this, of course, liquor is an outlier of sorts, because that's been a problem for a long time for many people. In fact, on a lighter note, there are people who phone up friends to figure out if they're hiding a bottle somewhere and they could be sent across, because people have run out. They didn't realize that they're going to be stuck in for such a long period of time. But leave that as a very peculiar kind of a product. Everything else, I think people will only venture out when this situation, all the three things actually converge together. Now, that is not so easy to happen. Now, let's take one. If I just take about 3, 4 minutes, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So let's take this fear issue. Now, in the fear issue, today we have about 30-odd thousand, a little more than 30,000 people in the country. It's anyone's guess whether this number is 30,000 or we could add a zero to it, because we are doing so little testing. Number two, there's a very large part of Indians who are infected who are asymptomatic. They themselves don't know. And looking at the death rate of those who have been tested, we know that we are in the world's lowest by far. And if that is so, it must be something to do with either our genetic composition, our immunity, the fact that the strain of the virus that has come into India is weaker, or the fact that we've got inoculated early in age, and therefore there is some resistance that we build. Now, obviously, nobody has a conclusive answer for the reason, but one thing is certain, that the mortality rates are much, much better. And if that is so, then maybe we don't have such a serious problem as many other parts of the world. Having said that, the fear is as high as it is anywhere in the world. And if we start opening up, which we have to do, because how long can you keep an economy locked up like this? It is impossible to believe that we have contained it and this will start falling. This is going to spread more. There is nothing that can stop it from spreading more, but it may spread more and yet not be very lethal. And that's the point. We have many people afflicted with common flu and so many other problems. The question is, the fear was high because it appeared that you could die with it. If you know that you're going to get sick for a week, and you with remdesivir as the Gilead medicine or something else, the hydrochloroquine or anything else which is working, you can be all right in about a week or 10 days. Probably the fear aspect can be greatly handled. The other is that, let's say, sooner or later the fear is handled because people sort of decide to live that life. By that time, do they really have money in their hands, or is their entire economic architecture broken? If it is broken, then until that money comes back, you're not going to get the confidence to go and buy the products that shopping malls or even eateries and of course cinema provide. So I see that this challenge is a little more complex, and therefore we need to, of course, the first thing has to be opening, but it has to be closely followed by the other things. Otherwise, we will open but not really have business going on or any appreciable business going on.
Interesting. Arjun, I'm going to take that point. And, you have very close contact with your retail partners. And what Harsh is saying is that, if we were to open the malls and, there continues to be fear and the consumer may not really appreciate whether when the lockdown really fully opens, whether he has a job or not, whether there's going to be a pay cut or not, they may not go out and spend as much. Are your retail partners thinking on similar lines that this is what they're getting a feeling from their consumers, or are they getting some different messages from the likely consumers? Hi, Arjun, you're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Anuj. And I first want to just appreciate what Mr. Razak said, and I think he really summed up the whole India retail story very beautifully. But I kind of tend to disagree with my friend Harsh a little bit. And if you allow me to disagree with you,
Please, sure,
with your permission, I see this as yes, there is a fear of death, there is mortality, and that's there's no denying that. But if you take that one aspect aside, I think I look at it as a glass half full. We've been in touch with, forget our retailers for a moment, we've been in touch with a large number of our consumers. We're a center where we are in close proximity to our customer. Our customer talks to us and back and forth. And we have feedback that even in the lockdown, there are people calling to say that, look, when is the Chanel shop going to open? When is the Sephora shop going to open? I'm missing that cream. I'm missing that toaster from Chroma. When is the Apple store opening? When is the salon opening? Now, there is a strong consumer demand that is very latent in the Indian economy. And I think let's not forget that this lockdown has demonstrated that there is a lot of frustration in people who are locked in with families and in small areas, and shopping centers really are one of the only avenues that you can go to and you will tend to buy when you're there. Secondly, my own feeling, and I think this is really the India story, is that India is a land of savers. Even when the liquor ban has opened, the liquor shops have opened, you see in the long lines. So it's not just about liquor, it's the pent-up demand. So I think there is a strong pent-up demand that is happening. And we've seen that happening in key markets like China. China has demonstrated that it is there. Certainly, there will be certain amount of apparels that may not work. But for example, just to tell you globally, Nike's sales globally are up in double digits this month, globally. Now, you would say, why would people be buying running shoes or walking shoes? But they are buying. So I think there is latent demand in the economy. Indians are a country of shoppers and of savers, and there will be a story out there. Now, there was a retailer who spoke to us and said, Dubai opened, and there is hardly any sales happening in Dubai. And I agree, because Dubai is a land of tourists, and you cannot compare Dubai to India. India can be better compared to a domestic market like China, where there is a strong latent demand. So I think, yes, as centers, we have to be very, very careful how we open. We have to have the carrying capacity sorted. We have to have strong measures of hygiene, control. But once that is sorted, and obviously we're not going to open from 0 to 100 in day one. I think this step up will take a while, and I agree with Mr. Razak that once we do that gradually, the India story is very intact. It's extremely intact. In fact, from a retail perspective, let me also tell you that today I got off a call from a very large retailer in Hong Kong who's asking me that, look, do you have 6,000 square foot location space available to lease to us? We want to open a store with you. You know what I mean? And he's asking that, are there any retailers of yours that probably will go away in this situation, that they can't afford to pay a rent or something? I said, no, we're going to work with our retailers. We understand their pain. So we're not going to be opportunists. But I certainly believe that there is a huge amount of serious money that is waiting on the sidelines and is looking at the India opportunity. Tell me if there is there any country in the world where if you had $1 or $100 to invest, would you invest it in Europe today? Would you invest it in complex markets like North America today? You have very few markets in the world, and that market is India. So today there is serious capital waiting on the sidelines, and that capital is wanting to invest in India. So I think by far and large, the India story and the retail story is very much intact, and I'm personally very bullish about it.
Just Arjun, carrying on behalf of Harsh's thought process, many of these markets are rich markets, they're mature countries. They have safety security net on pension, government taking care of them. Unlike us, where really our employees don't have that, safety net. Do you think their mindset may be different to when, some of the other international markets opened up to the Indian?
Anuj, I'm a very active member of YPO, and I've been seeing some of the chats on the YPO chats. I think corporate India has been very responsible in the last couple of months. Yes, there have been some cuts, but these cuts have been very minimal. I think we have lived up to the government's plea and appeal to hold jobs as much as possible. I do agree that there needs to be some amount of stimulus to put in the hands of people so that some more demand is pushed up. You have to have a pull factor as well. But I think if we don't open the economy in the next few days, whether it's 15 days, whether it is 3 weeks, or even a month, but that's about it. If you don't open the wheels of this economy at some stage, yes, you then may have other problems. You may have social problems as well. And I think those problems are there. But I think corporate India, by far and large, has been very responsible. If you really look around it, yes, there are cuts and there are deferments. And as I said, India is a land of savers, and we've always existed without a pension scheme. We are not Europe. We're not a socialistic state. We have always learned to live. Why do Indians own the largest percentage of gold in the world? It's Indian money is lying in different asset classes. Why do Indians invest in real estate so strongly? Because unlike the Western world, which is more on the rental side of property, Mr. Razak's business depends hugely on property sale, and that is really because the Indians have an intrinsic insecurity about the future. So I think you cannot change that psyche of the Indian consumer overnight. Yes, we don't have a socialistic bent of view. We don't have a social platform where the government will come and dole us money, which I hope they do this time. They need to do it. This is one time when I think the government needs to write the money out. I was on another call where I was on, I think, India Today channel. I said anywhere between 10 to 15 lakh crore is the stimulus that this economy needs at this stage. Whether it's in the form of direct transfers, whether it's in the form of guaranteeing our loans, whether it's buying the corporate paper, whether it's supporting the NBFCs, the banks. It's an economy that's integrated. You cannot just fix one part of this economy. You have to fix the entire change. And I'm sure there is something in the offing. The government is strangely quiet, but I think there's probably a good reason, because they want to hold that ammunition. But I believe the mandarins in the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Ministry and RBI and the Niti Aayog will all work together to find a solution for us. If not, then we'll do more webinars like this.
Right. Philip, I'm going to come to you on these two very interesting points that Arjun has come out with. One is on the international, given Nexus and Blackstone. I mean, you've got malls across the globe. What has the experience been, when many of these countries have opened up these malls? One. And the second is, coming sort of a little bit direct question to you, Dilip, from what Arjun said is on the dole, on the stimulus. We've not had that come through from the government. And, if the Reserve Bank of India does not give the one-time restructuring or the moratorium, for the LRDs, then, how are you going to work with your retailers on that? Because you have a bank sitting in there to whom you have actually taken the loan against the property, and if you're not going to pay him or her the rent, that mall really belongs to them then.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Anuj. Thanks, Anuj. Thanks, Amitabh, and everybody. To answer your first question, what's happening internationally?
Yes.
I think different things are happening in different markets. China, which was the first one to reopen, today, fortunately, about between 80 to 85% of restaurants are open. and between 90 and 95% of commercial assets are open. Are consumers back at 80, 90% in terms of footfalls? The answer is no. I think it's a gradual build-up. In some cities, the footfalls are back to about 60, 65%. In some of the other cities, it's between 40 and 50%. But the fact is that on an average, at least half of the footfalls have come back, which is, to my mind, a very, very positive sign. If you look at Germany, which also went through a very, very bad phase, I think the revival, so-called revival, I think if you look at the IKEA report and so on and so forth, the numbers are very, very, very encouraging. If you look at what's happened in Dubai, like I think Arjun said, Dubai is an outlier, and I think there are issues. It's also Ramadan, so it's not that everybody's out shopping and eating and stuff. So I think that's a slightly different market and not very comparable to where we are. But by and large, I think if you look at Hong Kong, again, it's a market that's doing extremely well. Australia, they never shut, but their footfalls are 40, 50%. So I'm saying there will be 3 phases in this recovery process. And I don't think we need to be very scared. All these 3 stages happen every time there is a crisis. The first stage is where you will start seeing the first signs of recovery, the green shoots. I think they're beginning, as Arjun was saying, people are asking for space. Good luck, give us that number as well. Maybe we'll need it. Arjun, thank you. And the fact is that this is the first phase, the first 60, 90 days after we reopen. I think Mr. Neotia made this point, and it's absolutely valid, which is that it's not just about opening. I think it is about getting the footfalls back. So the first stage is really where you bring the trust and confidence back of the customer. The good thing is, and now in Nexus, we are doing a dipstick every 2 weeks to understand consumer sentiment. We used to do that once a quarter. So that's one new normal, which is that you need to get data faster. We're doing it every 2 weeks. The first track, after 14 days of lockdown, indicated that people were very, very scared. The second track is indicating that there's already 30 to 40% of people who are dying to go out the moment, some form of shopping opens. I'm sure as we go into the next 2 weeks, people have seen what's happening across the country. I think the number will increase. So if you ask me in a nutshell, that's the first stage where trust and confidence has to be built. Stage 2, which is the mid to short term, which could be between 90 days to maybe 120 days, depending on which city you are in. That's the stage where I think not just small owners, but also retailers will have to start reimagining the business model. They'll have to rethink what the organization structure is and what the cost structures are. I think in the past, we have all focused on cost in this industry. I think it's now the time to look at what is the value that each rupee of cost is creating in this business, and that's how you will redo the business model. So that's phase 2. Phase 3, which will happen, I think phase 3 will happen from Diwali onwards, starting November, is when I think footfalls will come back to 80, 90%, maybe even 100% of what they were. If you look at China, in SARS, which was an equally bad, I was looking at a Bain report of 2003 and 4. Interestingly, the first 2 categories that came back to above normal guests were what? Food, of course, and the second was beauty. Yeah. So all the pent-up demand, as Arjun was saying, has to come forward. The third bit, which is equally important, is the fact that fashion and apparel became the next category that reached 100%, right? Now, all these 3 categories are very important for the mall business. And there's no question in my mind that in phase 3, we will be back to at least 100%, if not more. So I think we just have to be a little patient in terms of waiting for this phase to get over. And I think this phase is about survival. The next phase will be about recovery. And the last one will be about regrowth. So I think all 3 phases are there, and we just have to be a little patient, and it'll happen.
And Dilip, what happens with the government stimulus?
I think that, as far as the government is concerned, I think the writing is very clearly on the wall. I just read a report this morning from the banking, I think it was one of the private sector banks who didn't want to be named. Currently, the NPA in this country is around 9.3 lakh crores, right? On a loan book of about 100 lakh crores. The estimate is that if nothing happens for the next month and a half, that's going to double to 20 lakh crores, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm saying that our industry is in an equally, vulnerable position. Why? Because all my rentals, in a sense, are already pre-sold, pre-mortgaged to banks. right? If I can't service my LRD, I can hold for a month, but beyond that, can I keep paying people? Can I keep paying my LRDs and still have no business on books? That's an impossible situation. So I think the first thing that the banking sector has to do, and it's no cost to the government, is to relook at this 3-month moratorium that RBI gave somewhere, I think, in March. I think that has to be rolled over. There's no question, to at least 31st of March. Secondly, there's a 9% interest there. And I really do not understand how the economics works because there's pain across the system. The repo rate is at 4%. So where is the benefit that's being passed on to borrowers, right? Why can't the banks equally decide that, look, if 4% is the cost of funds, can they give it at 5, 6? Why is it 9? So I think both things are equally important. At a more serious level, I think insurance is the other big thing, right? In the US today, if you ask me, the biggest move that's happening in retail is for they're trying to get business recovery insurance from the insurance companies, saying we stumbled not because of our own fault, because there was an issue. If insurance doesn't cover that, then what else is insurance meant for, right? So they are pursuing it. So that's the second thing. The third thing is at a local and a state level, since we have lots of laws and duties at the state level, I think the first thing is that property tax, which is a large part of our cost today, why can't we get a 1-year moratorium? We will pay it. I'm not saying we won't. Give us a 1-year moratorium. Electricity is the second biggest cost after manpower. We, in some states, have got some concessions, but large number of states, we're still working with an archaic system of saying, this is your minimum billing amount.
Yeah.
Understand that. We pay for meters, we pay for lines, we pay for everything, right? Why can't we do away with that? And similarly, licenses and so on and so forth, right? I think that those are the things that I think we need to do. One thing that everybody needs to understand, that if there are job losses, this sector employs 45 million people, right? But what is more important is that every 1 million jobs that get lost in retail account for another 5 to 6 million jobs that get lost across the economy, right? Now, I'm saying the equation is right in front of us, and I'm sure, like somebody said, that hopefully somebody sitting at the center will take cognizance of this.
Yeah. Mr. Razak, there are two questions. I think they're from a retailer. I don't know who it is from, but they've asked, repeatedly asking that please ask Mr. Razak, what's his opinion on the force majeure clause? And second is on the rentals to be paid by the retailers in the mall. I know you've been amongst the first champions to have sent out the letters to the retailers once this lockdown had happened. I think the question is really post-opening. What is your thought? So force majeure and on the rental.
Anuj, one is the legal aspect and the contract aspect. Now, if I go strictly by the legal aspect and as per contract, I have no obligation at all to give any rental waiver to any retailer. Please, I want that to be very clear, and I want that to be heard loud and clear, because that is the legal aspect, and that is the as per whatever the contract that we've signed with various of the several of our retailers.
And Mr. Razak, force majeure doesn't play a role in this.
I've taken legal opinions on that also. I mean, I don't want to go that legal
I know,
route.
but you're just wanting to make...
But if we go the legal route, I think it's a no-win situation as far as the retailers are concerned. They have only one choice: either pay the rent and go ahead with the contract, or they have no other choice but to give back the premises and then move on. So this is the only choice. Now, you ask me, why did Prestige be the champion? I mean, of course, I've got into some flack from my various other peers also on this decision. But you see, when I did this mall in 2004, I always told my retailers, I showed them, listen, we are in this together. The only thing that I have learned is that as long as the retailer does not do business, as long as his cash register is not ringing, as long as he doesn't make profit, he is not going to pay me rent for the love of my looks. That's very, very clear. So the thing is, we always said it's a partnership. It's a partnership where both have to be very, very work together. We have to support each other, and we have to. So when this problem came, the only thing is, I remember the date. It was the 14th of March. My people came and told me, listen, now the malls have been asked to shut. Some of the retailers are getting a little worried, and they are concerned that if the stores are shut, how can they pay rentals? And we are getting letters, we are getting notices, whatnot. In my own simplistic manner, I know it was a huge decision. It wasn't an easy decision. But in one stroke, I said, listen, I know in my mind, I said, how long are we going to get shut? We made money from these guys. And I said, made this very, very clear that during the shutdown period, Prestige will not collect any rent from any of the retailers. We will give them the waiver with two conditions. The first condition was that they will support us on the mall your AMCs, that is the maintenance charges, scam charges. And the second condition was, the moment we open, the day we open, we go back to 100%. We can't be at that time talking about, listen, you give me this waiver, my sales are a little down, so you do a little bit of adjustment here. When I've gone that huge step ahead and said, listen, I'm supporting you throughout, and I'm giving you a 100% waiver during the lockdown period, the moment the life starts, when it restarts, you are going to pay me back my 100% of the rent as per my contract. And we are going to support each other. We are going to make sure, see, when retailers made huge money, they did not pay me extra rent. Okay, there may have been some what we call revenue share and everything else, but still the retailers benefited hugely. Now, when the retailers are losing, we thought that the best thing for us is to just do this, support them and get their goodwill, only because we felt that that goodwill will help us to make them recover faster when we open and life restarts again. And of course, when we reboot, obviously there'll be a little bit of a hang. It's not that moment you reboot, even if you take a car that has been not started for a week or 10 days, yes, you go start it again, it's not going to run smoothly the way it's been done. So if you ask me on the legal aspect, on the legal position, I'm very, very clear, the rents have to be paid. Now, if you take my office properties, now I think about 96% or 94% of my office users have paid me my rent without any demur. Some may have come with a little push, some may have come a week later, but then as I'm sitting in May, my April rent is in collection mode. Now, where are the defaults? There are some defaults in the sort of spaces where tenant has already weak, was not doing good business. See, listen, the mall owner cannot support the retailer's business. See, after all, each one's got their business. Now, like Dilip very nicely said, he said, we have also counter-committed our revenues with our banks. Now, our banks are upset with us. See, they are saying, listen, you had no business to go and give our money to somebody else, because whatever the collection came is to be swept up by us, and the money actually literally belongs to us. So now the thing is, what we need to do is we need to look at how we can sort of make up those losses. The only way we can make up those losses, it can't be made up in any other way, is that when we restart life, when we restart everything, we start getting our full rentals, full cam, and life goes back to the way it is. And of course, now, like you talked about the RBI, you talked about loan waivers. I don't think anybody will give us any loan waiver or interest waiver. But Rahul in the previous thing said a very nice thing. Since everybody is suffering, why do banks want to make profit from us? They shouldn't profit also from us. They shouldn't make that arbitrage from us. They also should support us in terms of reducing the interest rate. And the second part is, we can't be looking at a 3-month deferment of EMI or a 6-month deferment of EMI. We have to look at it as a 1 full year of deferment of EMI, which not only the interest, but even the principal repayment should be again capitalized back to the loan. It should be restructured in such a way that life starts after 1 year. For 1 year, I don't have to pay interest. I don't have to pay any EMI. Of course, I'm not asking for a waiver. I'm not asking for discount, but I think we as mall owners, and I think we don't deserve that. Farmers may deserve it, but we don't deserve it. What we deserve is a little bit of sympathetic look at us, a method where, yes, we will pay you your EMIs, we will pay your interest. It's a cash flow issue just now. When I'm not getting in the cash, I can't do the cash out. Please support us. Please don't give us this drip. Give us this 1 year where we can, which will make us, it applies to malls, it applies to hospitality also, where you take the back end repayments and add it up to the principal. Of course, again, it's a double whammy, because again, we'll be paying interest on that additional loan amount. It's not that it's coming for free. And if the interest itself can be reduced, looking at the losses that are being made, I believe it will be a win-win. And of course, now Dalip has brought in points like property tax and things like smaller things like even the electricity bills. Actually, it should have been a given. It should have been without asking, it should have been done. But we see the different governments. One is the state government, then is the RBI, then is the local government. So each government really needs to understand, because one thing we must understand is all our governments, whether it's the local municipality or the electricity board or the central government, are all cash strapped. They themselves do not have money. So how can you expect something from someone who doesn't have anything to give to you? But things like deferment of payment of interest, deferment of payment of installment is not a cash loss to the government. That should be done instantly. That will actually make us relax a bit, make us sleep better. It will make us not put too much pressure on our retailers also. And I think it will be a win-win situation. And we'll be looking at how to revive, how to make the places safer, how to make this, the center where people will come and social activity will start again. Obviously, we are talking about today is the era of social distancing, but we can't distance ourselves so badly that we lock down ourselves.
No, well said, Mr. Razak. Harsh, two quick questions to you. One is a specific one. Someone from
Anuj, can I just come in? Anuj, we'll have to extend it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So same like last time. We started 5 minutes.
As long as my panelists are okay, so we'll do it, say, till 5:55. 5:55. Yeah, great. So we've got half an hour. Thank you, Amitabh. Harsh, two questions. One is from someone from Siliguri who's asking you is that, he's in the process of building a new mall. Should he delay? Should he go ahead with the construction of that mall in Siliguri? And the second one is, Harsh, given there will be impact on some of the retail formats, do you think that the mall mix would change?
Well, for the first question, if you start building now, you are at least 3 years away for it to be completed. And I have no doubt that the India retail story 3 years from now will be very robust and good. So clearly that's a win-win situation. But whether the particular location, the size of the land, etc., so it is not a simple factor of whether retail is right or not right, but it's also about the particular parcel of land, the size of the land, and so many other factors of how you're going to finance it, etc., which will determine whether you should go ahead or not. So that was the answer to the person who asked for Siliguri. Siliguri is a great market. We have seen very good experience, but it is also true that all the malls over there that were built are not doing equally well. And that may be because they were not configured correctly, or maybe because they were clustered in a particular area where there was a little oversupply. So I think one has to be mindful of geographical dispersion. One has to be mindful of the mix. One has to be mindful of the infrastructure you create and the size. So there are many, many parameters, as we all know, that need to go into it. It probably take long to explain each parameter in detail at this forum. The other thing you said about the mix, right?
Correct.
So mix is always evolving. I think we clearly know that a very, very large attraction of malls have been the fact that they are social places. Irfan Bhai and Arjun has spoken about this, that, they are not just places where you go to shop, it's where you go with families, you go to just spend some time, meet friends, etc. So clearly, that is going to be more the focus as we go forward. because some amount of essential shopping will get diverted to e-commerce. Uh, but it is the discretionary shopping, it is the lifestyle shopping, and of course, the whole aspect of social interaction, very largely centered around food and entertainment, which should be there. Now, this big problem of the COVID-19 has brought in this fear of being in confined spaces. So, cinema is one of those confined spaces, which obviously will be the last to get started, but that is clearly a problem. And I hope that it comes back, because India, if you can't think of India without cricket and Bollywood, and to believe that the cinema would actually be a casualty and people will go hunkering back to their homes and watch it on Netflix would be a travesty and really an unfortunate tragedy, if I may say so. So I do hope that this comes back, because there is something magical about watching cinema in a cinema hall. And I'm sure that once the vaccine is out, I'm sure that it'll kick back very fast. But even before the vaccine is out, if people feel reasonably safe, there is a protocol of hygiene, etc. I think people will come back. Maybe not right now, but maybe in 3-4 months from now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely, Harsh. Arjun, three questions. One is specific to you, and the other two from my side. One is specific. I think it's probably a mall owner, and the gentleman or the lady is asking is that there are 200 retailers who've come together and they're negotiating together. What do you do under such a circumstance? And then I'll ask you the other two questions. Arjun, you're on mute.
Yeah, we've heard about this, but I must say that the Shopping Center Association of India and the Retailers Association of India, we are working together. I think there is very clearly a sense of partnership that we've been talking about. And I think what we've been saying also is that where there are reasonable requests, and I think what Mr. Razak just mentioned, the way he did it is very commendable, I think. We also kind of responded by saying that we haven't raised invoices for the month of April. We've said that we haven't taken a call on that decision. We're also waiting to see how long is this pain. Is it a 1 month? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? Also, is there something that the government is going to give? Because every situation for every organization is different. And I think there are also retailers talking to us and saying, listen, what we're asking for, as Mr. Razak said, is not a waiver, but maybe just a postponement from a cash flow perspective. Some have even come and offered to us and said, listen, okay, we understand that there is a problem, but maybe you could adjust it with our deposit at the end of the tenure or kind of a thing. So there are different dialogues. And I think it's very difficult to talk to 200 retailers as one. We have to talk because every relationship is different. For example, if someone who's already at the end of a tenure has got 1 year left and he's in a very low rental already, how can I place him with somebody who's on a high rental and has got a 10-year long run rate with us? And so there's just so many complexities in these relationships.
Yes.
So and it's not to belittle anybody's demands. I think as shopping centers, I noticed in some of the chat groups that we are being called big brothers, we're being called whatever, and I realize there's a role and a responsibility we have in that role, and it's certainly we need to carry the industry with us. There's no question about it. But I think we also are just waiting and watching a little bit how the government reacts, what's the general feel of the economy, how are the sales taking place. At the end of the day, all I know is that we've built 12 years of relationship, and I don't want 3 years of a disruption to destroy those relationships. So at this point of time, we all, and I say that on behalf of the whole industry, because I've had the opportunity of interacting with the leadership of the Shopping Center Association of India. There are several malls across it, and what everybody has echoed is we will be reasonable, we will work together, we understand your pain, but if someone tries to work under a gunpoint or a threat, then I'm afraid then we can also act the same way. There's nothing that prevents, in fact, it's easier for us to get together than for 200 or 500 retailers, you know what I mean? But that is not our endeavor. That is not our at least very clearly, my personal point of view. We want to stand committed to our relationships individually and work with people. That's it.
Beautifully said. And I think, this I would also say is on behalf of all the mall owners, Arjun, and on behalf of Amitabh, who's championing SCAI's cause. That is what we're hearing repeatedly from the mall owners. I think Mr. Razak said beautifully, guys, I just want to make sure what is the legal position. I don't want to go down that route, but I'm telling you, this is what the legal position is. The intent, the spirit is exactly what you have said.
And we are very clear, Anush, just add that we would ideally not like any of these relationships to go legal, from the smallest to the largest. And I'm very confident because we've spoken to nearly about 60-70% of our retailers one-on-one. I've had a chat with. I think everybody understands that the problem is on both sides of the spectrum. This is not a problem that is my problem or your problem. It's equally a problem, and we just have to find the right via media. And I think if one approaches with that sentiment, I don't see any problem in finding a solution that is just to everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will be able to do it, Arjun. I mean,
not even a doubt of it. I think what Mr. Razak did was very magnanimous, and I really appreciate what he did. I think it demonstrates leadership, and it's certainly. But every company is in a different situation and may not be able to react like that. So one has to also respect people who are leveraged and who have LRDs, because that rent belongs to the banks. You know what I mean? It's very it's not possible for a lot of companies to do that.
And Arjun, in one of the webinars, exactly what you're saying is that the mall owner said is that, it is not my doing. I mean, the bank is forcing me to, issue the invoices. And once I'm continuing to pay the GST on these, but I cannot, because it is really the bank who's forcing me to send the rent invoices to the retailers. So, point well taken. Dilip, two questions to you. One is this on the social spaces in the malls. We're not going to be able to utilize it. These social spaces. Is there a thought that there is going to be something else that we can do it? One, and second is how are the events going to take place only once the vaccine is going to come out? Then it becomes quite a sanitized sort of an environment. I mean, I don't have a thought process behind that. I'm just thinking, walking into a mall, that there is no social activity, and I have to stand in a queue with the social distancing. And then if there's an urgency to buy, then I'll buy. But if there is a little bit something happening, or so I don't know what your thought is on that.
So a couple of things, Anuj. The first thing is that I think in the short term to mid term, events are out. There's no question. But just to give you an example, music is not out. Yeah. And we just did a small experiment with a set of customers to see what they want instead of events. And some of them are saying, have great music going. I want my spirit to be uplifted.
Yeah.
So I think we have to look at options which are not just event-led. We've done that for years. I think now is the time to rethink, reimagine what we're going to do. Even the space that we have, one of the things, for example, we were thinking is that as soon as we open, one of the biggest pain points will be that people's gadgets have not been repaired for months now. Yeah. So can we get in the atrium, which is not going to be free, have 4 or 5 pop-ups where people are giving services, right, for repairing televisions or refrigerators or whatever. And there are a large number of players in that market today, which so that's a customer service. It's making good use of space, and that's the pain point. So I think the first and the most important thing is that as we go through the 3 phases, some of it will have to be reimagined. Some of it will come back. It's not that events will never come back. They will come back, maybe in a slightly different manner, but they'll come back. The second thing is that, see, we were doing engagements for what reason? We were doing it basically to create experience, and through experience, make sure that there is engagement. Right? But it doesn't say that events are the only thing that are required for engagement. If you look at e-commerce does no events, and yet they have the highest level of engagement with their customer. So I think in the reimagined retail world, digitization will have to become a key thing. So one of the things that we're looking at is launch with the app, a shopping app, which allows you to do exactly what you wish to do. You could even book some of your merchandise even before going in, and all kinds of things. So I think we'll have to relook at what will the new experience be in the new normal, and what is the engagement tools that we will use. My own feeling is that the first set of people who will come in will be the younger lot, and hence music becomes important. getting them onto a digital platform becomes important. And number three, giving them an experience which they desire becomes important, right? So I think that's really the reconfigured, not just physical space, but the mind space. And I think that's going to be the bigger issue as we go forward, not the physical space. All of us can reject that. It's the mind space. So there is fear in that mind space right now. There's this fear of not just the virus, fear of losing your job, etc. And I'm saying everybody wants to get away. Remember, the reason why Bollywood does so well, even with whatever software they create, is that it's 2.5, 3 hours of an escape, right? I think malls will still be an escape, maybe a full day, half day, whatever, lesser number of hours. But that escape has to be redefined. So we will not have, a pop singer singing in the atrium and stuff like that. But we can still have music. We can have great other stuff happening, right? So I think that's the reimagined world for engagement as far as customers are concerned.
Very, very well said. And the second is, Amitabh, maybe you can help in this as well. Between you and Amitabh, Dilip, you've created beautiful SOPs.
Yes.
Of opening of the mall. Questions on the SOPs. And I think one of the desire from a lot of the viewers who are perhaps mall owners or mall managers is asking about this SOP that, are these being produced by SCAI? I know that you're working very closely with Amitabh on this one. And would those be able to provide the requisite confidence to the consumer that, yes, I can get into a sanitized retail real estate environment?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good question. We have, over the last couple of weeks now, been working with Amitabh and team, basically with the industry as well, in terms of defining the SOPs. And these are very exhaustive SOPs, right? From a simple thing like, if you've used a wheelchair, old shopper, maybe a 75-year-old shopper, you have to sanitize the wheelchair as well. It's a simple thing. It could be forgotten. So every small thing has now been itemized into what we are calling the protocols for reopening. A lot of it is in words, etc. I'm also trying to build small capsules, training modules on video, so that we can, get our staff trained as well. And it's extremely comprehensive from the time the shopper comes in to the time the shopper actually goes out. We're also looking at what are the technology solutions that we can do. So, for example, we have developed in most of our malls, we can actually tell exactly at a point in time how many people have entered and how many people have left, so that we can control the crowds. Honestly, if you ask me, in terms of if I had to go out and shop, I'd rather go to a mall, not just because we are Nexus and all, but it is, the more you look at it, a very, very safe, carefully monitored environment. We're going to be sanitizing every half an hour. We have people there. We will not allow crowding to happen. So I'm saying you can't have a better environment than that. And I would, if I had smaller children, I wouldn't mind taking them there because honestly, that's the safest place for people to go. So that's one. We've also taken all the international best examples of SOPs and plugged them there. Air conditioning was one issue where I think a lot of people, especially in the government, have been wondering, is it safe? Is it not safe? We have taken the best again from across the world. We won't spend too much of time, but we have protocols in terms of what to do with air conditioning and how safe it is. So we've done all of that. And like I said, we will now hopefully put it on video as well and give it to the entire industry for training purposes. The second part that we are doing is there is a subcommittee on marketing, which has been formed, which has Raghu, it has Vishak from Madura, and a couple of our marketing guys who are basically looking at a joint marketing program to build trust and confidence once we come back. And I think we discussed it on this Sunday call. If everything goes well, then in the next couple of weeks, we'll also have a finished set of creatives for anybody who wants to take them. So that's thanks to Amitabh and his team.
And also, let me add that the SOPs are jointly created with the support of DLF, Select City Walk, In Orbit, some of the finest shop, Nexus, Infinities, the Rajas Mall. So everybody has contributed. We created a team which actually created this whole document. It's a 48-page document, very exhaustive. And I think we've showed it to the government. I think we've done a
very
great
well
job.
Appreciated as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Great. Very, very good. Thank you. That brings a lot of confidence back into it. My last set of questions, we got just 10 minutes left. Mr. Razak, I'm going to ask you this question, and this is perhaps nothing to do with retail. I'll still ask you in that maybe you can bring in retail. As they say,
Anuj, just a sec. Before you go into the last question, there's another thing. how do we as a joint body, SCAI is very powerful today. We have 200 plus malls as members. Our voice is not being heard. Means nobody is listening to us. We've sent thousands of letters. We've spoken to almost every department, every state. What do? We need to think of, maybe not this time, maybe this time the government is too busy. Everybody is talking to them. But finally, SCAI needs to be built. A shopping center association needs to be built. It's a non-profit body. I think we need to create a body which is as powerful as any other body. You see how the restaurant association, the airlines, and the hotel, everybody is really putting it together. We've just started working in the last 1.5 months. Everybody has got together. But I wish we had worked on this for 2 years. We would have been, although I was just telling somebody today, we have done as much as anybody. It's just that we are in the queue. Everybody's in the queue. So
I think that is what it is, Amitabh. At this moment in time, you're not the only one who's not getting a response. I think a lot of the people have written. Mr. Irfan Razak champions on behalf of CREDAI. I'm sure they have made tons and tons of representations. They're a very powerful body. They have a lot of connect with the bureaucrats, politicians. So I assume it's the same, Mr. Razak, from the government, that it's probably. We will come back to you at the right time. So Amitabh, sorry, can I continue with the last set of questions? I'm just
please go ahead. I just thought
only 8 minutes or left. Mr. Razak, as they say, is never let a good crisis go waste. What would be the learnings from this crisis for us?
That's a very nice question, Anuj, and. Now, before I start to answer your question, I'd like to react to what Amitabh and Dalip have said, what they are doing for the Shopping Center Association. It's important. It's important at this time of crisis that we should stick together. We should all project ourselves together. And I think now, like Dalip says, yes, we can't have events. But if we can't have an event, so no problem. But let's see how we can engage with our retailers, because you see now the most important thing today is that with the retailers, it's just not about what's the waiver you can give or what's the reduction you can give, what's the change in the contract you can do. These things I believe are inconsequential. Now, what is consequential is how do we support each other to see that business happens, to see that the cash register rings once again, to see that the confidence comes within the people, that they visit our centers and there is a motivation for them to come in. Have some sort of a shopping festival of Bengaluru or whichever city you're in, and all retailers, all the shopping mall owners get together, project it as one and as one body united. I believe that will be something, and we can't do it on our own. We are only owners of the hardware. The software, the retailers. The retailers are the one who have to engage with us. We have to engage with them. I like what Arjun said, that he knows every single retailer and knows the pain point. That's the only way things can work together. It's a win-win. It's a situation where if we work together, if we strategize together, if we are able to get the customers into our centers, because see, ultimately, one thing, if trading happens, government wins. If customers come in, government wins. Employment is there. See, otherwise, if retail dies, it's hundreds and thousands of jobs. It's not that the jobs there'll be a huge job loss. Please understand that. And that is the job loss, which is the voter for the masses that are losing those jobs. It's you and me that will not be losing a job. Probably if we are pushed to the wall, we'll sell the center and do some other business. I'm not saying that we're going to do it. But you see, it's for the common man at the bottom. That is the important thing. And that's what we need to now project to the government also. Listen, it's ultimately, if you support our centers, if you support retail, it is finally the salesmen and the support staff that is there that will get their bread. How long do you think the retailers will keep paying the salaries for those guys who are anyway underpaid, and if they're not getting their business? So we have to engage with the retailers. We have to work out together, and we have to do this. And Anuj, to answer your question, the one thing that is good happening is in this sort of a crisis is we are getting together. Today we are sitting and discussing. We are discussing, we are strategizing. We are all talking as one. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met Arjun. Maybe he was too busy in his own world, or I was too busy in my own world, or Dilip was in his own world, or Harsh was in his own world. Now, together, I've seen the other two, the previous webinars, I've seen this. Okay, one-to-one, you may be knowing somebody in your own city, but then now, event like this, we getting together, spending hour and a half together, strategizing, discussing, and also taking certain decisions, which is good for the industry, which is good for the common good. And for me, Dilip, it was music to my ears on what all the SOPs you've done, because similar SOPs are being done by my teams. Now, why should each team do their own thing? Why don't we all get together and set up one common SOP with a common message, with a common signal, and that will make us that much more stronger. Believe you me, it's not about being selfish. It's not about I and me. It has to be we. So if you ask me what this crisis has done is, it's brought us together. At least now we are talking about we. And my message even to the retailers, if they are tuned in here, is listen, we want to be with you. We want to support you. We want to see that you survive, because you survive, we survive, and we survive, you survive. It's not about us against you. Let's all work together. Let's engage with each other and see how we can make this into a super industry. Like now, Dilip talked about Dubai and the malls being tepid, and talked about Ramzan. No, it's not about Ramzan. It's not about being tepid. Please understand, Dubai is a world market. Today, nobody is flying in and flying out of Dubai. There's no people there. If you take Dubai by itself, there's no population. The populations are with us in our cities, even tier 2, tier 3 cities. Harsh is in tier 2 cities, many of the tier 2 cities. We are in tier 1 cities, and maybe we've got a couple of malls in tier 2 cities. We know the pain in a tier 2 cities. We know how beautifully we can function in a tier 1 city. But if we can become one big, humongous, huge organization, yes, we run our businesses the way we want to. There's nobody stopping us. But if we can share certain common threads, and if we can work together, and can see how we can engage with retailers, support our retailers, and make it into a win-win-win situation. That, I would say, is the biggest win that we've got from this crisis.
Beautifully said, Amitabh. The ball is in your court. SCAI has a huge responsibility to be able to put this all together, what Mr. Razak just now
great idea. Mr. Razak, we are in touch with Suresh and Ali, and we are working together, and I just spoke to Suresh yesterday also.
Arjun wants to say something.
Yeah, I'm also in the hospitality industry, and I learned from my hospitality colleagues something very interesting. Make My Trip is a big partner or distributing agent for the Indian domestic market and the global market. And they came out with a common set of SOPs for their partners. And once you comply with them, they've put on their website that we are a safe and a secure hotel. Hotels are safe and secure by that. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to have that common SOP that Mr. Razak mentioned. We're all working on it. And I think, and if we could kind of Shopping Center Association of India could say, look, these centers are safe and secure, and put that on their website and make that public claim. That there's no guarantee, obviously, because things can happen. But yes, it shows the responsible company. So one, you can get a validation. And I think it's great. And if I may just add, Anuj, to your question, and say that what is the one thing that you will learn from this? I think is probably the lack of digitization in our industry. I think we're all realizing that we should have probably invested a little more in digitization, and I think that's really where some of the gaps in our learning are coming. And I think, of course, it's great that we're all together, fabulous, and I think it's going to create much more synergies amongst us. But if there's one thing that I feel that we could have certainly, as an industry, invested more in, was digitization.
Great.
Beautiful. So, Mr. Irfan Razak, I've said collaboration against your name, digitization. Arjun, Harsh, what is one thing that you think that you picked up?
Well, I would just like to pick further on what Irfan Bhai and Arjun have said, and said that, this is a great opportunity for us to really be partners, not just amongst mall owners, but also with retailers. Mm-hmm. And this is because, any crisis brings us together to understand each other better. I think in a normal situation, we were a bit in silos of our own organization, and then silos, at best, of our kind of maybe the profession we were in or the particular business we were in. But now we have to go cutting across silos. We have to actually have a conversation with the bankers. We have to have a conversation with the government. We have to have a conversation with the retailers, and we have to have a conversation with other stakeholders, including employees, because everyone needs to participate in some manner or the other to fix the challenge that this event has caused. So I think this is going to lead to, hopefully, and I hope it lasts for a while, because every human being tends to snap back into old habits, but it is hopefully an opportunity for greater collaboration and greater understanding of each other's problems and finding a common solution, because we are all threatened. A small little microscopic bacteria or virus has been able to really do what we probably couldn't have achieved. I mean, the positive side of it, there's a lot of havoc that virus has caused. But if you leave that aside, I think this is a great opportunity for humanity to come together, including in sustainable practices and environmental concern. Look at the way the world is healing. Look at the fact that the sky, the blue sky, can be actually seen without the fog and the mist and the smog, the cleaner air, etc. So I think there's a host of things that have happened. I'm sure it's not going to remain like this. Some of this is going to crank back. But I think that all of us are going to certainly be more looking at environmental and sustainability issues going forward.
Well said, Harsh. Finally, Dilip, from your side, what is that one thing?
Okay. There is since we were talking movies, there is a recent big hit, and there is a dialogue from there which says, "Apna time aayega." If you have heard that, I think I would like to end on a very, very optimistic note, saying, "Apna time jaldi aayega."
नहीं बहुत जल्दी आएगा, जल्दी नहीं, and this too will pass. This too will pass.
Apun aayega.
Apna time jaldi aayega. So I'm saying
one thing that is great amongst this team is everybody has excelled in whatever they are doing, and everybody is passionate about what they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can you fail? You cannot fail.
Yeah. So apna time aayega. I think that is what is the motto that the industry must have, jointly with our partners, whether the retailers, restaurants, cineplexes. I think there is no need for pessimism, honestly. If you ask me. In a country of 1.4 billion, we've lost 1,400 people, but that's, it's been controlled extremely well. So at times we tend to forget that there are so many positives in the last 6 weeks and we focus on the negatives. I'm saying, for heaven's sake, this is only 6 weeks out of a life of 80 years. It doesn't matter. Don't be pessimistic. There's enough optimism. Apna time jaldi aayega. There's no question about it.
Well done. Well said. Well said.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. From collaboration to digitization to partnership to being together to being able to find the mutual solutions. And Dilip saying is that apna time aayega, and I'm adding is apna time apun laayega. It has been fantastic. Thank you very much. Amitabh, if I can hand it over to you to do the closing.
Thank you, Anuj. Thanks a lot. As usual, great moderation, great question. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Mr. Razak. Thank you, Dilip. Thank you, Mr. Neotia. Good to see you after a long time.
Can I just take just a second?
Yes, please.
From the bottom of my heart, want to thank Anuj. I've seen him over the last few weeks, trying really hard, whether it's a Sunday evening or a Saturday. So thank you so much, Anuj. I think you've done more for the industry than a lot of other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you, really, from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Anuj. Thank you. Thanks.
Stay safe.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Nice
Bye,
meeting.
thanks, Amitabh, for organizing this. Thanks, Anuj.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Amitabh.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye, Arjun. Bye.